Y'all are being recorded. Good morning, beautiful babies. Okay, so today we are going to be doing our vocabulary on heat transfer. We're going to be doing the first 4 words. So divide your paper into 4 quadrants, then take each quadrant and divide each quadrant into 4 quadrants, just like this. And we've done enough active science vocabulary that you guys know what this kind of looks like at this point, correct? All right. So our first word up here, our first word is thermal energy. Thermal energy. All right. All right, and basically all thermal energy is it's just the heat that can be transferred from one object to another. It's just transferring heat. The heat that can be transferred. That's a fancy word for moving. Transferred from one object to another. That is thermal energy. All right. And for your picture, I want you to draw a coffee mug. I'm sure all of you know kind of what that looks like. Draw yourself a little coffee mug. And the lid is open like this. You got the little handle on it. And there's steam coming out of the top of it. All right. And then Sydney wraps her little hand around she wraps her little hand around it just like this. And she feels the warmth go from the cup into her fingers because heat moves from the hot thing to the cold thing. So the heat is transferring from this warm mug into her hand. And then we're going to write a sentence. The sentence says, the thermal energy from the hot mug moved into my cold hands. That is thermal energy. Thermal energy moves from the hot thing into the cold thing. Thermal energy is just heat, guys. It's I'm gonna come up here, put in parentheses. It's just a fancy word for the word heat. Thermal energy. It's like how, people say, I'm gonna chew. Well, the fancy word for chew is masticate. I'm gonna masticate my food. I'm gonna go poop. The fancy word for poop is eliminate. Okay. Every word, pretty much every action has a fancy action. So right now you're writing in your notebook. The fancy word for that would be, I'm going to scribe. Okay. There's a fancy word for everything. Like for every action, there's pretty much a fancy word for it. Okay, so if you said I am going to walk, I am going to slowly, I am going to glass. Yep. I'm going to write in my notebook. I'm going to scribe. All right, my next word. Okay, so on y'all's pretest just a few minutes ago, you saw weird words. Conduction, convection, radiation, right? All right, we are going to start with conduction. Come here. Our next word is conduction. I want you to underline duck. I want you to draw a duck. I'm going to say that this is a duck. I'm going to put my hand touching the duck. And I want you to remember that you can actually touch a duck. Touch a duck. You could also call this conduction. Conduction. You can touch it. So conduction is the transfer of heat when two objects are actually touching. Okay. Conduction is the transfer of heat between two objects that are touching. They got to be touching each other. All right. Now, for this one, you are going to draw again. You're going to draw a bowl of soup. Okay. So here is my large bowl of soup. Just like that. Okay. Inside of here is, I went to Olive Garden and I got some zuppa toscana. It's got little bits of spinach in it, little sausage balls, got little potatoes in it. Got me some zuppa toscana with the breadsticks for dipping. What utensil do you use to eat soup? A spoon. Very good. So I want you to take a spoon. I want you to put that spoon inside of the soup. The spoon is inside the soup. We're going to pretend like this is see-through. And you can see the spoon down here. Okay? So what happens when you put your spoon in the soup is that the heat transfers from the soup up to the handle of the spoon. Do you agree? The heat travels up the spoon. And that is because the spoon is actually touching the soup. Does that make sense? All right. So, while eating my soup, my spoon got hot because it was touching the hot soup. And then I want you to write that that is conduction. Cool? Does that make sense? It's actually touching the hot soup. It's inside of it. So it's touching it. You can get conduction if you touch a hot burner, the heat goes directly into you. If I think that Colt has a fever, I can put my hand on his forehead and the heat from his forehead will go into my hand and let me know if he has a fever or not. If things are touching, that is conduction. You can remember it because you can touch a duck, can't you? You can touch a duck, and you can also call it conduction. All right, so our next word, the other con word. I'm going to go quickly. The other con word that was on your pretest this morning was convection. Convection. All right. When you draw convection, always, anytime you see the word convection, I want you to do this. I want you to draw a swirl with the hot stuff rising and the cool stuff sinking. See how it's swirling, but the hot is coming up and the cold is going down? That's convection. Miss Rouse, what does that mean? All right, this is when heat moves in liquid. It's always in liquids and gases. In liquid or gas, the hot rises, the cool sinks. All right, so if you are heating up a pan of water, here is a pan of water. What's going on in there is that, yes, the pan is heating up, right? Because it's on the burner. But the liquid inside, there's liquid inside. And what's happening in there is that the hot water is rising. The cool water sinks down to the bottom and it swirls. It goes around and 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 around until all of it becomes the same temperature. So the sentence is, Mr. Brown has a convection oven. Any of y'all got a convection oven? I have a convection oven. Inside, the heat rises and cool sinks. That is a convection oven. And I'm going to get way more into detail about these on probably Wednesday. Today and tomorrow, I'm just going to be doing vocabulary. All right. And our last one that you saw today was radiation. And I know all of you are thinking radiation means nuclear. Not necessarily. Radiation is the transfer. It's the transfer of heat by rays or waves. What do you mean, like water waves? No, like electromagnetic waves. Okay, so what I want you to do for your picture, draw the earth down here. Okay, this is, we're gonna say that this is earth. E-A-R-T-H. You wanna know how the earth heats up? The sun. Does the sun touch us? Thank God, no. That would be really painful. Okay, so the sun is way far away. Y'all know that, really far away. But it puts off rays or electromagnetic waves. They travel through space and they heat up the planet. Okay. So it's not touching it. It never touches it. So here's another example. Laura held her hand close, not touching, close to the fire. It warmed up because of radiation. Radiation is heat that travels through space. It travels through the air, okay? So I can put my hand close to an iron and my hand still gets hot even though I don't touch it, right? Y'all have seen that? If you put your hand too close to a burner, doesn't it get hot? Yeah. If you put your hand too close to a candle, doesn't it get hot? It does. Okay, so radiation is through space. It travels by heat. The heat travels by rays or waves.